Biblical scholar D.A. Carson has this to say about atheists. The Bible's view is that in the last analysis, atheism is less the product of misguided searching, a kind of intellectual mistake, than a defiant and stubborn rebellion. The fact that atheism is not widely seen that way is itself an index of our depravity. In fact, the best-informed atheists commonly acknowledge the connection between morality and belief, between immorality and unbelief. Within the framework of their own presuppositions, there are many honest atheists. But the framework itself is wrong. That framework is never established by a single individual. It is built up piece by piece until certain beliefs are culturally possible, then probable, then almost inevitable, and each generation, each individual, has contributed to this massive rebellion, this lust for autonomy that refuses to recognize the rights of our Maker and our obligations to Him. Atheism becomes not simply an individual choice, but a social degeneracy. Woo! Heavy stuff. This is a summary of what an uncountable number of Christians believe and have historically believed about atheists. But is it right? Certainly not according to the testimony of atheists. We all know that you're an atheist because you hate God. That's the next.
Right.
Why do you hate God?
It makes about as much sense as supposing that I hate the Easter Bunny, right? That is, my view is that there's no such thing. The idea that atheists hate God is a really strange kind of fiction.
But notice that Carson's comments set up a sort of unfalsifiable approach to the inner psychology of every individual atheist. They're in defiant, stubborn rebellion. Well, what if they seem to be honest people? Oh, they're honest within their own framework, but not really. Christians categorically ignoring testimonial evidence is a funny thing that I've talked about elsewhere. You can feel free to speculate about the inner psychology of every atheist if you want to, against their testimonial evidence. But don't expect us to take you seriously if you believe miracle stories written decades after the fact by non-eyewitnesses, if you won't believe an atheist standing right in front of you telling you why they left Christianity. There's also the issue of competing stories.
Almost to a man, the critics of theism came back to this principle that the real impetus for theism is grounded in human psychology. And I have to say, before the whole world, that every bone in my body wants there to be a God.
Suppose our only two options are to choose between Carson's story about atheists and this other story about believers. If I have to choose, I for one think that the story told about believers is way more persuasive. Now to be clear, I don't think psychoanalyzing entire groups is a helpful thing. I'm just making a point about the plausibility of the atheist rebellion story versus its competitors. What about the claim that the best informed atheists acknowledge that their atheism is tied to immorality? There are 2 points to make about this. First, this smacks of just cherry-picking examples. Most philosophers who are atheists are moral realists, and there doesn't seem to be any widespread social degeneracy among atheists or countries with larger portions of atheists. Graham Oppy takes common stereotypes about atheists to task in this book next to me with actual data. Further, suppose some atheists do engage in behaviors that Christians deem immoral after they leave the faith. Well, so what? What does that actually prove? Should an ex-Muslim be losing any sleep for starting to eat pork? Well, maybe because we should be trying to reduce animal suffering, but not because there was a random kind of meat that's considered taboo by the religion they left. I think Christians would basically agree with that. Now turn it around and apply it to your taboos. Additionally, if you study how a lot of religions and cults operate, you'll realize that basically all of them rationalize why people leave their groups. They never really understood, didn't have the special spiritual sauce, etc. It's a belief protection mechanism. Consider also what the implications of strong readings of Romans 1 are. Essentially, no doubt about God's existence is ever really genuine in an ultimate sense. Sure, Christians might want to say that doubt is normal, but it doesn't follow that it isn't the result of suppressing the truth. So if you've ever had a genuine doubt, then hey, this system is easily falsifiable. You might also question whether the texts used to defend these positions about atheists really say what people claim that they say, as Randall Rouser does in this book. Finally, this hypothesis about atheists depends on a few things: the existence of God, the truth of Christianity's simpliciter, and traditional notions of biblical inerrancy. And by the way, there's tons of reasons to doubt all of that. Oh my goodness, look at all these playlists popping up around me, disputing all of those claims. Definitely don't click on one.